Dan Perry, is that also your assessment? What signal does this protest send out? What does it intend to send out?
It's obvious not everyone in China is so pleased with the prospect of a third term for Xi Jinping. It's impossible to say how far it will go and how widely it will spread. A lot of it clearly has to do with the zero COVID policy, which is causing some economic distress. But also, I have to think that the repression in China is so great that the true level of discord probably goes well beyond what we see in the protests. The question is how far the Chinese Communist Party will be willing to go to suppress this discontent if it goes much further.
For Dan Perry, the assessment is Xi Jinping is all-powerful. He's consolidated his hold over the army, the paramilitary force, the party. Is this now a foregone conclusion? He'll be president not just for a third term, perhaps for life?
I mean, clearly the Chinese Communist Party does not allow formal opposition. It's a one-party dictatorship. He's about to get, we believe, a third 5-year term that would make him the longest-serving leader of China since Mao Zedong, longer than Jiang Zemin. He'll pass that threshold in about 3 years, I think. Will it go on and on? Very hard to say. I mean, it's so inscrutable what's going on inside the party. Obviously, they have the 25-member Politburo. There's a standing committee. There's a few people that make these decisions. It's so profoundly absurd in a country of 1.5 billion people. This is how the place is governed, and we don't really know the deals that they have made. They must have concluded that something about Xi's style of rule and his philosophy of governance and notions about China, the nationalism, the very extreme degree of pride in their civilization, which I think the Communist Party is leveraging to achieve some popularity. They must like it. But it's a little sad to observe because I think the Chinese people are not such an exception to the general desire of human beings to have a degree of freedom. And if anything, under Xi, we see a reversal of what little freedoms had been achieved. I mean, even at the level of dissent inside the Communist Party. I mean, it's now more centralized than it has been for many decades.
And Dan Perry, with Xi Jinping virtually unchallenged, consolidating his hold over party, country, in your appreciation, is that bad news for the democratic world? Let's talk about neighbors first, for Taiwan and India in the times ahead.
Obviously, they're being bellicose about Taiwan. The Ukraine war may factor into this. On the one hand, if China sees Putin getting away with grabbing bits of Ukraine, I mean, again, no one here is telepathic. It would suggest that they might be emboldened. However, of course, Ukraine has become quite a quagmire, and that may give China pause as well. I think crossing the Taiwan Straits to get to the main island of Taiwan will be logistically difficult. They'll be exposed. The terrain is inhospitable, and they'll be facing, I think, as Russia does in Ukraine, very motivated defenders in Taiwan, which, by the way, puts paid, I think, to the notion that there's something about the Chinese people that is antithetical to democracy. Taiwan is mainly populated by the same people, and clearly democracy works there. Clearly they like it and want to preserve it. So no one can predict if China would really invade, but certainly they'll rattle the saber, and clearly that is part of the nationalism component of the Xi style of rule.
I was reporting from Taiwan last month, and you're absolutely right. Democracy in Taiwan is thriving. We would be watching these developments in China very, very closely. But Admiral Sena, Dan Perry, and Inarth Anjan for joining me here on this India Today special. Gentlemen, many thanks.